Here's a controversial thing to say out loud. Some of the most psychologically advanced people walking around right now were told repeatedly as children that something was wrong with them. Not by strangers, by the people closest to them. They were too sensitive, too intense, too quiet, too much, or somehow not enough. And here's what makes this genuinely disturbing. Those labels stuck. Many of them are still carrying the weight of those words today, living smaller than they should, dimming something that was never a defect to begin with. Because what psychology now understands, and what most people will never hear, is that the children who grew up feeling like they didn't quite fit, who felt different without ever being able to explain why, were often not broken at all. They were operating on a different psychological frequency, and that frequency comes with traits that most people never develop. Stay with this, because what you're about to hear might change how you see your entire childhood. If you've been watching content like this and still haven't subscribed, you're literally choosing to miss the explanations that finally make sense of who you are. Subscribe now. It takes 2 seconds, and this channel exists for exactly this reason. Let's start with what researchers actually call this experience. Psychologists refer to it as minority stress identity development, the psychological process that occurs when a child's internal world consistently doesn't match the environment around them. Studies from the University of California and the American Psychological Association have confirmed that children who experience chronic social misalignment, the quiet, persistent sense of not belonging, don't simply grow out of it. Their brains adapt around it. And those adaptations, they're not damage. In many cases, they're architecture. For a large number of people who grew up feeling different, the experience begins before they have words for it, often in classrooms where they were bored before the lesson started, in family dinners where the conversation felt shallow, in playgrounds where the games didn't interest them and they couldn't understand why. When a child grows up consistently feeling out of sync with the people around them, the young brain does something remarkably logical. It turns inward. It builds a rich internal world because the external one doesn't quite fit. Psychologists call this intrapersonal intelligence development, an accelerated growth of self-awareness that emerges directly from social friction. In this light, feeling different wasn't an accident. It was the beginning of something. Now, here's what the research actually shows. Psychologists identify 2 broad types of people who grew up feeling different. The first type processes the experience as evidence of inadequacy. They internalize the misalignment, conclude something is wrong with them, and spend their adult life managing that belief. The second type, often without realizing it, converts that same experience into psychological depth that most people simply never access. Most people who grew up feeling different oscillate between both, but the 7 traits below are what emerge when that difference is finally understood. Trait 1. Heightened perceptual sensitivity. People who grew up feeling different often developed what neuroscientists call sensory processing sensitivity, the brain's capacity to detect and process subtle environmental and emotional signals that others miss entirely. Research by psychologist Elaine Aron found this trait present in approximately 20% of the population, and it correlates strongly with early experiences of social misalignment. You didn't imagine that the room felt tense. You weren't overreacting. Your nervous system was reading information other people's couldn't. Trait 2. Advanced theory of mind. This is your ability to model what other people are thinking and feeling, not just what they say, but what they mean. Studies from the Max Planck Institute for Human Cognitive and Brain Sciences show that individuals who experienced prolonged social observation in childhood, watching from the outside rather than participating from the inside, develop significantly stronger theory of mind capabilities.
You learn to read people because your survival, socially, depended on it. Trait 3. A chronic, low-grade hunger for meaning. People who felt different as children rarely outgrow the question why. Not just why things happen to them, but why humans behave the way they do, why systems work the way they do, why nothing ever seems to be exactly what it appears. Cognitive psychologists link this to epistemic curiosity, a drive to close explanatory gaps that develops specifically in minds that were never satisfied by surface-level answers. It doesn't feel like a gift, it feels like restlessness, but it is one of the rarest cognitive orientations a person can have. Trait 4. Identity resilience under pressure. Here's the one that surprises people. Because feeling different as a child sounds like a wound, and in some ways it is, it also builds something that psychologists call identity coherence under adversarial conditions. When you grow up never quite fitting the mold, you stop relying on external validation to know who you are. That process is painful, but it produces adults who can hold their sense of self steady in environments where others collapse. Research from the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology connects early social outsider experience to significantly higher scores on psychological resilience measures in adulthood. Stay here. This next one is the one most people have never heard named.
Trait 5. Hyperactive default mode network. Neurologically, this is where it gets fascinating. The default mode network, the brain's internal processing system active during self-reflection, imagination, and social cognition, shows measurably elevated activity in people who grew up experiencing prolonged social introspection. Researchers at Harvard Medical School found that children who spend significant time in solitary reflection develop richer, more elaborated default mode networks. In plain terms, your inner world is neurologically larger than average. That's not metaphor, that's brain structure. Trait 6. Emotional processing depth. Not emotional reactivity, emotional depth. There's a critical difference. People who grew up feeling different weren't just more emotional than their peers. Their brains processed emotional experience more thoroughly, more slowly, and with greater nuance. The amygdala, the brain's emotional processing center, functions with greater deliberateness in these individuals. A 2019 study in Frontiers in Psychology found that adults who reported strong childhood experiences of social difference scored significantly higher on emotional granularity, the ability to precisely identify and differentiate emotional states. Most people can tell you they feel bad. You can tell someone exactly what kind of bad and why. Trait 7. A quiet, persistent moral compass. This is perhaps the most underestimated trait. People who grew up on the outside of social groups develop a specific sensitivity to fairness, belonging, and exclusion because they lived it. Developmental psychologists refer to this as experiential moral development, ethics that emerge not from instruction but from lived friction. The result is adults who notice injustice quickly, who feel it viscerally, who find it genuinely difficult to move past what others dismiss as minor. It is not oversensitivity, it is a moral architecture built from direct experience. Neurologically, what ties all 7 of these traits together is the same underlying process. The brain, when it cannot find external belonging, routes its developmental energy inward. Neurologically, what ties all 7 of these traits together is the same underlying process. The brain, when it cannot find external belonging, routes its developmental energy inward. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for self-reflection, planning, and social cognition, receives more sustained input during childhood in people who spent more time observing than participating. The result is an organ that is, in measurable ways, better calibrated for depth, nuance, and complexity. Telling someone who grew up feeling different to simply stop overthinking it or to let things go more easily is neurologically naive. Their brain was built precisely to hold things longer. Feeling different as a child is not a diagnosis. It is not a deficit. It is not evidence that something went wrong in your development. It is, at its core, the origin story of a mind that was forced, earlier than most, to build its understanding of the world from the inside out. The 7 traits in this video are not consolation prizes. They are the documented psychological outcomes of a specific kind of childhood experience mapped by researchers across decades of longitudinal work. The challenge for anyone who carries this history isn't to finally become like everyone else. The challenge is to stop treating the difference as the problem and to start recognizing it as the reason you see things other people miss. And perhaps that's the most important thing psychology has to say about people who grew up feeling different. They weren't behind. In many of the ways that matter most, they were building something the people around them hadn't started yet. If this video described something you've carried for a long time without ever having the words for it, this channel exists to give you those words. We explain psychology the way researchers actually see it, not the way social media flattens it into 5-second advice. Subscribe, because understanding yourself is not a luxury. It's where everything else begins.